What's happening, folks? We're just going to do a weekly reflection video. Um, Last week forgot to do my video. So I'll probably actually, you know what? Let me see last week. How many trades did I take last week? I think I only took 2 trades last week, on the 9th and on the 12th. 9th and the 12th. Yeah, these were my 2 trades the week before. I may as well just include these in this video, or at the start of this, just to kind of cover it off. So I only took 2 trades the week before this. Came out with a profit of 0.42%. So only 2 days traded, Tuesday and Friday. And from an analysis standpoint, both of these trades hit stop loss. But I was able to come out with a bit of a profit of close to 0.5%, which is still good. But the idea, kind of from last week, was to play this overall time frame triangle here. This is the mid range. What I was expecting here, or not expecting, but what I was visualizing happening over Asian session. I took this trade at 7 o'clock. This trade was taken on the 4-hour time frame, and it was taken based on this candle closing above mid range. I look at this little range here, got a mid-range resistance. This candle closed above mid-range. This candle then pulled back and respected this, and then started to push it up. So I entered a trade, visualizing, anticipating either getting a push above here before the close of the day, and if price can remain above here, and then during Asian session we get a push, or at least be able to remain structure above. Or potentially during Asian session just getting like straight continuation, right? Which never came. So during the day, these are the 2 session candles here. Sorry, 2 candles have confirmed the bias leading into the session. This is a session candle. Price basically pushed up, and I closed trade. I can just come down to my trade here on 9th, close full. Yeah, I closed here, and the reason for the closure in this specific reason was because of where price was trading. You can clearly see that there is this overlap in this little zone where this 4-hour resistance zone meets this 4-hour support zone. As we were approaching that, I just said, you know what, close. I can sort of tick the box there, say that I entered a profitable position. I came out of that profitable. But again, kind of what I was anticipating last week kind of occurred this week, which I'll discuss in a little moment. But that's that trade. Pretty straightforward, just kind of playing a range. The aim is to break out of this and push up to here, which did come this week over in a section. But let me just take this off. That was that trade. I mean, it did post up a question in the community just asking like what would others do in that situation. Some good feedback on that. But looking at the trade on the 15th then, I just go to the 15th. So I took this trade on the 15th based on the 30-minute chart. I just come down here, and this was this trade here on the 15th was a managed loss. Now this was my plan for the trade. Let me see. Hold on, where is the price? I'm just having a look at my other screen here, kind of see where that lines up with this. Anyway, let me just pull up this trade. sorry, I'm looking at the 15th, and it's actually the 12th this date. So got a little bit confused off my spreadsheet there, but yeah, this trade was taken on the 30-minute, and it was a managed loss. Now this trade, um, the reason behind I got involved in this trade was we have a bullish bias here, right? To be honest, reflecting on this session, it was pretty straightforward to actually just look at price and say, where are we? We're at structure support. We closed above support. We've then pulled down top support, and now we're breaking highs. We're in a bullish price action here leading into the session. It makes sense to see upside, especially when there's a clean candle here that price could mirror. So that was very easy, but on the day there was news at 7 o'clock. I actually didn't get involved in an option during the session. I didn't really know how to get into it. We were sort of pushing out in the above the Asian range. This candle at 7 pulled back with the news, tapped the Asian range, closed bullish. At this time, this is 30 minutes post the news, so this is an easy trade here in my opinion. Looking to play whether you're playing up to this support, or you're playing up to maybe the top of this daily resistance zone, or the next structure point looking left in terms of a resistance or a target. That to me is pretty straightforward. We're leading into 7:30 and London Open. We're bullish. The news is pushing price up. We're respecting lows. We're breaking highs. This sort of has a nice rejection work to the downside. It makes sense to see continuation here. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to identify that at the time. I think I was a little bit put off by the news, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna see what happens post the news. And I was maybe waiting for some form of structure, to form, but we can clearly see we just had bullish candles. So that's that option I didn't get involved in, and this is where I did get involved. Now this trade here, reflecting back, is a pretty stupid trade in my opinion. Basically the idea was price had basically formed I was waiting for structure, right? So price pushed up, formed a resistance, came down, formed a support, right? So this is the high of the previous 4-hour candle. We have formed a support here. So initially what I was thinking was, could I play this triangle here, right? Makes a lot of sense. When this candle formed a higher support, this next candle failed to break the high, but it also failed to break the low. So in my thought process, this candle here is still valid, right? The support is still intact. The fact that the next candle has then formed another support, and this candle has confirmed the support by posting a bullish candle, I'm saying to myself, well, this support's still intact. We're failing to break down. We're bullish overall. What's the chances we can just, as soon as we break above the resistance, the high, we can see more upside? Looking at it on a 30-minute chart, it looks like this is sort of what I was playing here. Was we sort of have the initial support, price pushes up, comes back, we then bounce around in here, and it's when this candle here like forms another support, we break down, and then we push from here, and we start to break the resistance. I'm just simply looking at this little level in here, like here, and saying as soon as we break that, after going sideways, we have a target, we break up, continuation, which in reflection is quite silly. And the reason I say that is because on the higher time frames, price is trending down, right? Where's price pulled back to? Price is pulled back to previous structure that we just broke out of. So, and the fact that price pushed up and reacted, like you could say there's a strong reaction from that support. It's kind of silly for me to, in my opinion, buy into that. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, the way I see price on this time frame is we're doing this. We've just pulled back the previous structure. We've reacted straight off it. yes, this could do this, but why would I buy into something that I've just seen a reaction from? Does that make sense? Does it make sense for me to do that? Um, and already there was opportunities during London to trade that idea, um, which I wasn't able to get involved in. So I think recognizing that and saying this option isn't the best option compared to what options there was previous, and look at where I'm trading. I'm basically trading at the top of a daily resistance when I'm trading into an RE support, where we had strong reaction, um, which is also previous 4 hour structure looking left. It's just not the best area to be banned. Better to be banned down here up to here. Clearly see that we completed this. So based on that, my management was an aggressive management. Because essentially, if we're not continuing, I don't want to be holding drawdown. So this is where I closed the position, which was here. So as soon as this candle basically, got me into the trade, it closed bullish, and then this candle started to break down. I was just like, you know what, get out of the trade. Um, it's not the best trade to be in. So close that for a minor loss. Close that week off there with just those 2 trades. So I just wanted to, I wanted to quickly touch on that. I touched on it for fucking 10 minutes, but that was last week. Now I'm just going to kind of touch on this week. Now, for me, my focus from my previous session with Chris is live decision making. For me, I see this as the next step in my progression. For me, I see this as the next door to unlock, you could say, because I have a good foundation, I have a good understanding. I can identify entries, good trades, not so great trades. But the next thing is like making those decisions in the moment. So that's sort of what I'm focusing on. And this week, I definitely found I was doing that a lot, and I think I was a little bit unsure if I was making the right decisions at times. So that led me to actually take 7 trades this week, which is a lot for me. And the sort of outcome of those trades was, I took 7 trades. I only came out, um, I only came out the other end profitable at 1%. So if you look at that ratio and you say you took 7 trades, come out with a total of 1% gain, is that really efficient? For me, it's not. But I feel like this week was definitely a learning week for me, because there was a few things that I was a little bit unsure of going into the week in terms of, or is the actions I'm taking correct and is it at the right times? I think that's going to be a teething problem for a while, to sort of get comfortable with the steps and building that buffer before and having a bit of a more relaxed approach when you have that to your decision making. So kind of had a good few questions based on this week. A lot of things I was encountering was I'm closing out in profit, it's continuing. That can be affecting me emotionally. I'm closing out in drawdown, minor drawdown. The trade's going to full stop loss, so that's a really good decision because of management downside as best as I could. Other things I encountered was I was closing out in drawdown, minor drawdown, and price would go on. So it's kind of like, well, was that the right time to do that? Could I have maybe got involved again? Should I have got involved again? How many trades have I taken? Is this considered overtrading? All those kind of things were going through my mind this week when I was getting involved in these positions. But one thing I was consistent in across these 7 trades was my decision making, whether that's closing out in profit, or closing out in drawdown. I think Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I was able to just tick the boxes and say, did I enter a profitable trade? Yes. And did I remain profitable? Yes. I was able to do that across Wednesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week, which I see as progression. I see, even though I only come out at 1% gain, you know, I made those. The sort of goal for me now is just to focus on decision making. I don't really care about what my results show. I don't care about the outcome because I'm just focused on the process. If I can just nail down this decision making aspect and get myself in a good position, close the trade. Price is doing what I don't want it to see, close the trade. Right? Just get comfortable with that. I'm going to be in a far better position 6 months, 12 months down the line when it comes to trading bigger risk. So kind of just going to talk through my week from a weekly outlook perspective. These were the areas leading into the week that I identified as my areas of interest in terms of where I would like to buy from and sell from. And I just rewind the week that's just gone and have a look at it. It was sell from here, buy from here, potentially sell from here, buy from here, buy from here. And again, this is just price moving into a previous zone and looking to fill the range. What happened here on Monday, which is what I was visualizing would happen the previous week up here on Tuesday, in Wednesday, was actually continuation during Asian. So looking at these two candles here, 10 to 2, 2 to 6. When I got involved in my position last week, I was looking, that's what I was visualizing. I was looking to see, because we have formed a good strong support here, respecting this, can we push out of this range and come into this range? Exactly what happened here. So looking at this on the 1 hour chart, even on the 30-minute, this provided like such good options to buy and play this whole zone. But it was during the Asian session, excuse me, it was during the night. I was sleeping. I wasn't obviously expecting to see this, but it was a possibility. But looking at this on the 30-minute, it's as clear as day. We close in the zone, we pull back, respect structure, higher support, continuation. Look at it on the 1 hour, close inside, respect lows, respect lows, respect lows, break highs, continuation. That was very, very easy. I feel like that option. So when I woke up and seen that, I was like, God, analysis is right. I just was, obviously it's just a different time for me to be looking for options and that. And then just playing out the rest of the week, just to kind of see what actually happened. So when we closed above into this zone, we were able to respect this zone, push up, test the top end of the range. Then during the week, Tuesday and the Wednesday, this support structure from the previous week held super strong. You remained inside. At this point, it made so much sense breaking here, test up into here, push, volume again. We close up, test the top end, come back down, test the bottom end of this zone, push up, test the top end, come back down, support again, test up, breakout. So from a analysis standpoint and a planning standpoint, I'm pretty happy with how price reacted to where I was anticipating potential opportunities, and I was able to capitalize on some of those this week. But just looking at my my trades this week, my first trade came on the 15th, which was a long position. Let me just look at my, excuse me. So this trade was managed loss, and just have a look here. Yeah, so this trade was taken on the 1 hour chart, and this was the sort of idea for me. The idea was price pushed in and closed inside this zone, right? We pull down previous structure, respect it, form a higher support that closes back inside and above this support. So literally this when I seen that, what makes more sense to me? Continuation makes more sense to me, regardless of if it's going up to here or in the profit. That makes a lot of sense to me, right? So I got involved in this opportunity, and I closed the minor drawdown. So this is where I actually closed the position. Here, or no, sorry, here. So this little red line here is where I closed in drawdown. So let me just have a look. Yeah. So this option, I knew this was of higher risk, so from a management perspective, I wanted to close as soon as possible if I seen any negativity. Prices coming below the 1 hour resistance and breaking its own low. So this was my way out of the trade. So I closed the whole position. So at the time, I was pleased with its aggressive management on the basis that I typically would give more room to breathe, and ultimately I would take a bigger loss. So reminding myself of my decision making and my goal for the rest of the year. My live decision making needs improving. So I thought this was a step in the right direction, regardless of the outcome. This was the trade. Price formed a higher support, which closed below the 1 hour resistance. This candle then, kind of respected the resistance, pulled down, formed a low, and then pushed bullish above the resistance. So I entered a buy here, right? Also at the time, well, during the trade and after the trade, I maybe recognized that where I bought maybe wasn't the best area or the safest area to trade, right? Because I'm buying within a 1 hour resistance zone, which we can see reaction from anywhere up to here, which is what actually happened. And we're also at a monthly resistance. So from a pip perspective, it's like 3 pips to that nearest resistance, right? So I feel like what a safer idea would have been to trade above the high of this resistance zone. That means I'm above the 1 hour resistance, zone, and above the monthly resistance. So we can clearly see how if I took an entry, say a couple of pips above that, this is kind of like we got upside from here. Price pushed up, and I could have maybe had a stop loss somewhere, I don't know, in here, because this candle's low respected, this one's bullish as fuck, this one's pulled back, and now it's pushing. So the idea, I think, made a lot of sense, but I feel like because this was a higher time frame sort of idea with like a bigger stop loss in comparison to a lower time frame idea, I feel like I maybe was a little bit too aggressive, but at the same time I feel like my entry wasn't the best. So for me, this was the first option where I get into a trade, was focusing on live decision making and made a live decision, and it turned out to be maybe the incorrect decision based on the idea, because as we can see, price continued bullish and it made it to 0.5%. And my management of this position originally was below this 4 hour support. This is where I said to myself, pre-idea or pre-trade, my pre-plan, I'm going to enter where I'm entering. If we come below here, I'm going to manage, right? But again, that's all pre-planned. That's not a live decision. I made a decision to act based on what I seen during this candle, which is something I didn't want to see. So happy with that. However, price did push, and would have made it to 0.5%, which is where I was thinking of closing, but because in comparison to where my entry is and my stop, my management position of the trade is 22 pips. Technically 22 pips to the upside is a 1-to-1 risk reward based on where I was going to manage. So I feel like I maybe got this one. This was the first trade of the week for me. emotionally it was a little bit tough because I was thinking to myself, well, didn't have the best of entries, and because of that, um, I kind of put myself in a position or a predicament that I maybe didn't need to, which then made me react based off that. Whereas if I had just identified where I was trading, pick the trade above it because it's safer, then I avoid all this, right? So um, that was the first trade of the week for me on the Monday. So money's lost, but again, focusing on life decision making, happy enough with the decision I made there because it's something that I didn't like. And then of course as I progress and learn and understand more, I'll be able to give these second and third shots because the idea can still make sense. So that was Monday. Then on Tuesday, the 16th, I actually took 3 trades this day. Now 3 is a lot for me. I don't typically take 3 trades. I only typically take 1, max 2. But the first trade was here, and I actually closed this trade out for like break even, near enough, like a little 2 pips in profit. So I counted this as a break even trade. This trade was taken off the 1 hour chart, and this was the trade that I took where I identified straight away that I entered in the wrong position. Kind of similar to the day before. The idea made sense, right? But I just didn't like the fact that I was trading into a 4 hour resistance, or a 4 hour support, sorry. So this was the idea based on the 1 hour chart. We're bullish for the session. Or sorry, apologies, we're mixed for the session. But my sort of idea was we've pulled into the session. This is just a higher time frame, deeper pullback, or potentially continuation to complete this and further. Now the fact that we pulled down into this and we've seen strong rejection, look at this on the 1 hour chart. Where's price pull back to? Pull back to this previous 1 hour support and resistance. So this is just this. This is just breaking above this, breaking out of this, a pull back to this, to do this. That's all I'm looking at. That's as simple as that, right? So I could just look at that and disregard everything, disregard all my zones, and just play that idea, right? So 1 hour formed a support. We started to break above the high of this support. I entered the trade. Price then pushed up, topped this 4 hour support, came back to break even, and I closed the trade. I just didn't like the idea of buying into the 4 hour support. So this was the trade that I sort of entered it, seen the reaction and closed it. Like break even. Right, that's one trade I seen like, you know what, probably shouldn't have done that. Was able to come out unscathed. Because at the end of the day, because we're below the support, there's every chance that we react off the support and have more downside. So again, I made that live decision, but at the same time, I think this trade was more of a trade, right? I get into it, shit, made a bad decision, get out of it, right? So I didn't sort of really consider that my first trade of the day, even though it was more like a mistake and then correcting that by closing it, right? So that was that trade. So that's sort of basically like a break even trade. You can clearly see this is where I closed. Basically break even. But the idea was still to play this overall triangle, right? And this is where then I entered this trade. So this trade was taken. This was taken based on the 30-minute time frame. Sort of idea behind this trade, was if we can close above the 4 hour, let me just take this off a second. If we can close above the 4 hour support and remain above the 4 hour support, then can this be an area to see the upside and basically the continuation? So this was the trade. Here we go here. So price pushed up all this bullish price action, closed above the support, for our support I'm paying attention to. Formed a resistance. So the next candle opens, pulls down, and starts to push up and break the resistance. So at this time I say to myself, well, if we were going to go down, why aren't we down? This candle's obviously reacted off the 4-hour support and it's breaking above the resistance. So is this going to be the continuation? The candle then closes bullish, the next one opens, doesn't give me the continuation that I want to see, and starts to come back below the resistance. That was my area I was going to manage. You know, at the end of the day, this idea made sense to me because it's above support. It's also at my weekly outlook area in terms of where buys make sense from. Price closed above 4-hour support, we formed a weak resistance, failed to continue bearish, and we broke that high. You know, this is where I then entered and sort of seen this as the sort of continuation of that move potentially to play the overall idea of that 1-hour triangle of love to the upside. And again, I wanted to sort of have an aggressive management with this because at the end of the day I want to remain above the resistance, the continuation. So again, made the live decision to close as soon as price comes back below that. You know, my improvements on this trade, I feel like although I exited aggressively and done as I said, I feel like I could have used the 4-hour support as my way of getting out of this trade, because even if this resistance gets broken to the downside, like this is the key area here that I'm paying attention to mostly, the 4-hour support. So if that can still be respected, there's every chance to still see some form of upside. So that was my improvement on this one, was I could have just given it a little bit more room to breathe, which would have meant I would have remained in this trade and seen this upside. But again, live decision making, I thought this was a good decision because I didn't see what I wanted to see. So that was that trade. Closed out for a minor loss there again of like minus 0.16%. So on the day I took the first trade, which I basically just come out of break even. This is my second trade, which is I consider technically my first. Come out at 0.16 minus, right? So near enough basically break even again there. And then when this candle closed, where is my trade? So when this candle then respected the low of the support and closed bearish, when this candle opened, pulled down, respected the support and rebroke the resistance, I give my idea a second shot. Because if I look at this in the 15, we basically pull up, form a support, push up, come back, form a support, a higher support again. Is this now where we're going to get this push, right? Is this now where we're going to get the push of the idea? Because essentially what I'm seeing from price is we're not breaking down. The idea still has a chance to play out. Maybe I was just a little bit aggressive with my management in the previous position, but the idea can still play out. So re-entry of my previous position, you know, once I seen this this candle break back above the resistance, I gave it another shot. We've got the higher support on the 15 to support that. Again, management position is going to be the exact same from the downside perspective. So I'm basically just getting another shot. I'm not really paying too much attention to Asian range and stuff here, which you could maybe say is like silly not to, but what I'm sort of just trying to play is this overall triangle. Like, it does eventually come, but I don't know how long that's going to take to come. You know, it could come in this next candle. It could be my entry candle that pushes, or it could come a little bit later, which it does. But what I done was, when this 15-minute candle, I'll just go to the 30. When this candle pushes up, there was, I think there was like a couple of minutes left that the new candle opened, and I just closed the full position. You know, like, this is where I was sort of struggling a little bit this week when I was in profit, because when I'm in profit and I have that live decision to make, I can close out in profit. You know, the sort of question back in then as well, how long are you going to give it? Are you going to give it 10 pips, 8 pips? Are you just going to give it when a new candle's opening because there's some form of downside coming potentially? But I looked at my previous trade, minor loss. I looked at this trade, seen where price was, knew the new candle was opening in a couple of minutes. I just closed it, right? For me, I was able to then tick the boxes again. Did I enter profitable position? Yes. Did I remain profitable? Yes. This trade here and this win, although it's a minor win, taking into consideration the previous minor loss, they still ended the day profitable, right? So I was like happy with that. So, and it ended up being the correct call because the next candle opened straight in the drawdown, and then overall stop loss get hit. So, see, when I made this decision, I was like, God, I made a really good decision there. You know, like, well done. And that's the sort of thing I just want to train my brain to do, is get in the right positions or get into a profitable position and take action. You know what I mean? Definitely the big focus for me. I don't care. I say this, but this is the sort of mindset I need to have, is like, I shouldn't really care if my target gets achieved or not and be salty. It did happen this week, but I feel like it is going to happen, and it's just constantly reminding yourself of why you're actually here. You know, you're not here to achieve target, you're here to make money. You know what I mean? If I can just constantly close and close and close, minor drawdown, profit, minor drawdown, profit, 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 like, it's all going to build up, and that's how the right way to go about growing an account, as Chris, you know, talks a lot about. So that was that option. That was that option there. Right. So if I go back then, 17th and the 18th. So let me just have a look at my spreadsheet here. 17th again. This is where it got a little bit. This is where I got a little bit salty this week, is because it was more so the trade after this, but leading into the session, let me see, on the 17th. Leading into the session, we have a bullish bias, right? And this is where I'm looking, and I'm saying, right, we're trading within this previous 4-hour zone. We've tested the top, we've came to the bottom, we've came from a bullish price, we've came from previous 4-hour structure. Upside makes sense, right? So when I'm in here, coming to my session, upside makes sense. My original thought on this morning was, where is the safest position for me to buy from? You know, in my opinion, it was above here, because I'm above this resistance, I'm above this, I'm above daily resistance, and I'm trading although I'm in a 4-hour resistance zone, I'm trading away from this after coming from this, after coming from here. So to me, that was the safest position. Now where I actually did get involved is here. And you might say, well, why did you get involved there? Like, when you say is that the safest position was above here. And the reason I did this was because when I was looking at this, a lot of the times my improvements come from other people's trades within the community who take trades on 15-minute time frames, take trades on 5. these are the improvements of my trade. So when I seen price setting up here, I identified this as my improvement, and I identified this as, well, if I'm trying to trade above here, I can see my improvement coming. Why don't I just give it a shot and see if I can trade that improvement? So when the support formed again, we're bullish in the session, price is pushing out, formed a target, pulled back the previous structure, Asian range, formed a support with a big rejection wick to the downside. The next candle is open, and the next candle's open. It's already created a downside, and it's breaking above this high. This is where I decided to enter, and I actually closed this position, basically here. Now, again, my thought process behind this was just, I can play this triangle here, and typically the last, let me just see here. So, seen the rejection of Asian low. I also seen the sort of dual special, I call it, on the 5 minute, which is this, where we sort of have that little resistance and then it gets broken. I seen that occur on the lower time frame, so I thought I could, give this a shot on this candle. So if price can push the Asian high, that's a sort of target. I don't know, hold on one sec. Asian high is here. Obviously, when I was typing this, got that wrong because Asian high is here. So the sort of idea is obviously just leaving this zone. But I closed here, and the reason I closed there was because sometimes the last 15-minute candle leading into London Open can have a push, can offer like a nice push before London. It's sort of like an early identification of like volume coming into the market. So when I seen that was potentially coming up, not that it was happening, but it was close to that candle opening. I don't know whether it was like 743 or 44 or whatnot, but I was in a profitable position here. We were sort of at this little mid-range resistance, and I just closed the trade. My original management of this was breaking below this here 420 level, which is breaking below this support and this support. And if we're breaking below there, this candle is going to be bearish. So we're just then look like potentially ranging. So that was my original management. We pushed up like 3.5 pips, and I just closed it. And like for me, like this is kind of, I was saying to the folks last night, like this is felt like a complete 180 to what I usually do. I'm typically the type of person, well, I have been for the past couple of months, of like trusting my analysis, allowing trades to play out, and just having a bit more of trust in myself based on what my data says. But now that I'm sort of making these live decisions or focusing on this, sometimes I felt like as soon as I'm in profit, I just have to make a live decision, and the right decision when in profit is to close. Now sometimes that's going to be the right decision because I'm going to close and it's going to go against me, but sometimes I'm going to close in profit and then it's going to continue, and then that's where you can kind of get upset, get salty, because, oh, what if this, why did I not just stick to my analysis, But that's then where, when I seen this setting up and I sort of seen where we were, and I was like, regardless of the pip value or the amount, I just said to myself, like, can I tick those boxes again? Can I get into a profitable position, which I'm in? Can I remain profitable? So I just closed that. Next candle opens, boom, straight down, ends up going to target, but I would have had to sit through all that drawdown to achieve that. And I most likely I would have already been out of this trade as soon as it starts to break here, because that would have been my management position. If I look at my management position and see how many pips that is, it's 6 pips. So if I go 6 pips in profit, that brings me to here. Where I closed out was at 3 pips. So I basically closed out at 0.5% win in terms of where my managed position was to where the close of that candle was. So kind of having that bit of a mindset and that perspective of, yes, you might be closed now for 2, 3, 4, 5 pips, but if your money's downside is 5 pips, that's a 1-to-1, right? What the value represents might not represent the full 1-to-1, but it is 1-to-1 if you look at it like that. So again, this is another one where I closed out and I was like, boom, price went against me, and I was like, I made a really good decision here, because I would have took a managed loss, but I took a managed win. Happy enough with that. But again, later on in the day, I opted to make a trade of a higher time frame based on my weekly outlook and based on higher time frame. This was the trade I planned, and this candle, or this sort of idea, was pretty straightforward. This is the range we're playing in. Big rejection, support, higher support, lower resistance. This candle's respecting the low, breaking above the high, breaking out of this range. What makes sense? Like last week, I'm trying to play an idea from here to get to here. So after seeing all this, on the back of all this, on the back of all this, on the back of where we're coming from, on the back of failure to break down, this candle's super strong at the time. In my opinion, it only makes sense to see upside. So the idea was same idea I had on the 10th of May, which we never got the push for, but now we're starting to see potentially that push. This was a higher time frame trade, so my management position was actually this 4-hour support. I was going to give this so much time to play out because it was a higher time frame idea, and it doesn't make sense to aggressively manage that. In my opinion, if it's a higher time frame play, like, you don't want to choke that. Different than trading 15 or 5 or 30 or something like in a session. But this is a trade that could potentially take days to play out, weeks. So at the time of entering this trade, 2 thoughts I had was, what was the thought? I just kind of left in mind there. The 2 thoughts I had was, should I close this out in profit, or trust my analysis, and trust my idea? And I was toying with the idea of, for higher time frame trades, higher time frame positions, which technically should take longer to play out, should I not aggressively manage those, downside or upside? And when this was playing out, I said to myself, I was like, Kevin, the volume's going to come at 2. The volume's going to come and it's going to fucking push this straight up. But before that happened, as this candle was closing, kind of similar to when we were over here, we're sort of at this little crossroads. This candle's hella bullish. I just decided to close the position there for like 0.35%, right? I thought to myself, again, I made a good decision in the morning. I could close this idea and tick the box again. Did I enter into a profitable trade? Yep. Did I remain profitable? Yep. And this is where I got really salty. Like, this was New York. This was the 2 o'clock. This was the push you could say, predicted but didn't know was going to happen, but thought it was going to happen based on all this. So again, like right up here, just straight up, like what happened next pissed me off, because when I entered the trade, I said to myself, 2 o'clock candle's going to bring the volume. They said it should say can't here, so I can't predict shit, but I had a good feeling upside was coming because of what the previous candles were doing. and what price was telling me. Sort of just discussed there that I was toying with the idea of, higher time frame, longer term plays. Do I allow them room to breathe? So when it came to the Open, you could say I made the wrong decision, and it pissed me off. It's only the wrong decision because price continued. If this had come back down here, back to entry, I'd have been going, fuck, should I have closed there? So technically it's not even the wrong decision. Again, it's just getting used to seeing this happen again. At the end of the day as well, I haven't built a buffer this week at all. I hadn't built, like, for instance, if I had taken a couple of trades earlier in the week in the raw winners and I'm sitting there up a couple £100, I might just let this one go because I've given myself the chance to do that, the opportunity to do that. At this stage I hadn't. So when I'm down here making this decision, if I can tick this box, come out profitable, bank that, take it into tomorrow, I think that's the right thing, the right mindset. It's the right thing to do. But because it's all well of me saying this now, but at the time I was like, God, what am I doing? I made the wrong decision. And I think that's just because it's the very early stages of this next step for me. I haven't been making decisions like this, so it's going to hurt, it's going to be uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, these options here, I'm going to catch a couple of these. Just had a voice crack, but I'm going to catch a couple of these, whether it's a couple times a month, a couple times a year, with that money that you'll have to play. So like, looking at it from that perspective, knowing that in a couple of months' time I'm going to have a buffer, and then I'm going to catch one of these and let it rip. Like, that should be the correct process, and saying, right, this one got away, but look, my analysis is on point. So this is a good thing, even though there's negative downside to the outcome of the profit and the analysis and stuff. So this trade was for 1.6%, and it hit full targets and stuff. But I most likely would have closed at like 1-to-1 or something if I didn't make the decision here. But after the fact, and seeing all this play out and talk about it with people, and just air it all out, it's a lot easier to understand and digest now compared to in the moment. It's so easy in the moment to just get fed up, get pissed, and all this carry on. But that's the sort of process. That's the next steps for me in terms of like progression. And so that's that trade there. I sort of took that in the afternoon after London, after seeing this break up. So that was that option, and then the last trade I took was on Thursday. This trade is very simple trade in terms of the bias is bearish. We break out of Asian range, we form a target, we pull back to Asian range, form a lower resistance. This candle here opens, reacts off the 1 hour support, flips bearish, I enter, and I'm looking to play that little triangle there. But I actually closed out of the position here for like 0.45%. So the last 3 trades I took over Wednesday and Thursday, from an analysis perspective, all hit target. So that would have been 2.83% from an analysis perspective. But my outcome, my gain in terms of actual gain, was only 1%. That's because I'm making those live decisions in terms of closing out profit early and that sort of stuff. So again, this position, was I able to tick those boxes? Did I enter profitable position? Yes. Do I need to hold it all the way down to here? No. Because you used to say it's going to get there. From an analysis perspective, it should, but it might not, So again, I just looked, it was like, did I enter a profitable position? Yes. Did I remain profitable? Yes. So I was able to answer those questions and say yes to both of those questions 3 days in a row. So although like my win, analysis, gain, all that shit isn't brilliant, it isn't substantial, but I was able to do the task, which was to answer those questions with yes, 3 days in a row. So I was like looking back and stuff, like I'm quite happy with that because again, it's the start of this new process. You're going to overcome hurdles. You know, you're going to bump into issues and be pissed off and that and the other, but like constantly remind yourself you're doing the right job, you're doing the right job, just keep doing the job. I'm always saying to myself, like, there's going to be an extra 0 or 2 zeros on the end of my trades, whether it's 6 months, 12 months. I can just nail this process for the end of the year, the rest of the year, I'm going to be in a better position. So 7 trades taken this week, quite a lot for me. Bit of a learning curve for me as well. I already feel like I'm in a better position going into next week with how to go about it. And yeah, that's sort of my weekly reflection. I know this is quite a long video, an hour long. But this just helps me at the end of the day. Being able to talk about this with other people is great, but being able to just like air my thoughts out, it's kind of like journaling. You know what I mean? It helps me massively. And it's always something I can go back and reflect on and say, what was I doing here? And this sort of stuff, and just see the progression. So, I'll just get this fired up and put it in chat. Don't expect anyone to watch it, but at the end of the day, that's sort of my weekly reflection, my breakdown, my trades, my ideas, and just sort of the stuff I'm working on.